Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Yeah.
The views expressed by J. Michael McCoy are the views of the hosts and guests of Max World Live, and not necessarily the views of Webcast One Live, its staff, its management, the cleaning crew, Dave the electric guy, the guy who cleans the skywalk, the woman who brought in the cookies, the management staff of Hubble Real Estate, the parking lot attendant at Keck Parking, the wait staff over at Miss Kitty's, the coffee crew at Frederick's, the man in the street corner willing to work for food, Rob Spearman, Max Crabb, or anyone else of sound mind. Should you be offended, provoked, intimidated, shocked, confused, or just made to think independently, log on to MaxWorldLive.com right now. It's your voice we want to hear in Max World. And now, live from the palatial studios of Webcast One Live, your host, J. Michael McCoy.
All right. 4 minutes after the hour on this 22nd day of April in the Lord's year 2014. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and thanks for joining us here on this special Tuesday, Max World Live with Tom Coates. You know, I just don't even show up anymore if you're not here on Tuesdays.
It's not worth it, is it, Max?
They all call in. Where's Tom? Well, what are you going to talk about if Tom's not there? You got to have Tom if you're going to have a good show, Mac. Sometimes I think it's you doing voice impressions. You're like on a beach somewhere in Maui doing Tom Coates impressions. No. We have a very special guest today, a guy that I have honored and loved for so many years. We were just kidding. Van Harden here is in the house from 1040 WHO. But, man, this go back to 80?
Let's just put it this way. We should be dead by now.
Yeah. I think it was 79 or 80. You were doing KRNT, and I was doing Q102, and we were doing all nights. And we'd sit and look. They had a glass between us.
Yep, that's right.
Wow. And congratulations on your success. You know, I really honor that. You kind of did what I had hoped to do, but it didn't work out that way because you're a nice guy. That's why.
Well,
but no, you got to sit in a place and you got to make a difference.
Well, thank you very much. I've been honored to be every place I've been. I mean, I was honored to be in a cornfield in Perry, Iowa when I started doing broadcasting, and everywhere else I've been. It's just sometimes I find it hard to believe that all this has taken place.
Well, God used you in the way that He intended you to be used.
Well, I hope so.
And probably has plans that you have no idea.
I hope He's not done yet.
No, I don't think so. I hope that too. So here's what we're going to talk about. Van has written a book, and by the way, I just glanced through it, and I'm so happy to tell you it's got large print.
Yeah.
And it is called Life. What were you going to say?
Well, I was just... No, you go ahead and make your introduction. I don't want to bother that.
Oh, no. Life in the Purple Wedge, Finding Yourself on the Map, and How That Changes Everything. And this would be a Christian book.
Absolutely.
Okay. So tell me what the Purple Wedge is. Well, it looks like a piece of pie on the front of your book.
It really does. The way this came about, I've been an adult Bible teacher for 35, 40 years, and I've witnessed what really clicks with people, and I've witnessed when I get deer in the headlights looks, too. And there have been a few things that I really was kind of thumping my head thinking, I'm not teaching this well enough. I've got to do a better job of this. And it had basically to do with being a Christian in what Jesus and Paul call this world. And
right.
I mean, if you read the scriptures that Paul and Jesus talk about this world, it's not very complimentary.
No, not at all.
But when you accept the Lord, then you don't have to wait till you die to go to God's kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
You enter God's kingdom when you accept Christ as your Savior. So what I did was I drew a big red circle. And on the left side of that circle, there's a dot. It's the day you were born. And on the right side of the circle, there's another dot, and that's the day you die. So all of us are making this journey through this red circle. And I made the circle red because this world, just like Jesus and Paul says, it's very, a lot of upheaval, a lot of problems. I mean, you name the problems these days, joblessness, divorce, alcohol, drugs, You've done many, many programs on that, obviously, and it can be very uncomfortable and unhappy. But then I depicted God's kingdom as this gigantic blue sheet or cloud that when God calls you into his kingdom through Jesus, this blue thing comes over your red world, and it happens at whatever age you do it. Now, if you became a Christian when you were a little kid, then the blue kingdom comes way over to the left side of the chart.
By the dot.
Right. If you did it when you were middle-aged, then it's in the middle. If you were the thief on the cross or had a bedside confession when you were dying, then it would cover just a little bit, but yet it's still covered.
They're still purple.
Yeah. So red plus blue equals purple. So you got three parts of your life as a Christian. You have your life in the red kingdom. And then when you become a Christian, you welcome to the purple wedge.
Yeah.
You're in there. And then when you die physically, then you go to the 100% blue kingdom. And so anyway, this is a long-winded answer to your question. The thing that concerned me as a teacher that I didn't think I was teaching very well was when I would teach about Christianity and faith and salvation and what Christ means to you in your life, everybody go, yeah, amen, oh, that's great, and go out the door and say thanks, that's the best thing I ever heard. But then I witnessed Christians who were having a terrible time and were unhappy and just were so affected by this world, almost as though they weren't in God's kingdom, and I thought, well, I guess that's normal, but I've got to draw something here to show people where they are on their map, where they started from and how they got there and where they're going. Because to me, I've never had such peace as when I learned who I was, from where I came, where I am, and where I'm going. Man, that just makes so much difference. And so I started drawing this stuff out. And, on the radio, we paint pictures, but we don't get a chance like this to draw out things and make them color-coded and all of that.
Yeah.
So this was a real special thing for me. And so, here we are in the purple wedge. Do bad red world things still happen to us? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I was concerned about people that emotionally go back to the red world and wallow in it when we've already been through that. You don't need to do that.
Yeah.
We're on to the next part, and here we are, and we're in the purple wedge, and we don't even know how long we're going to be there. We just know the next change is going to be even better yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Van Harden is my guest today. His book, Life in the Purple Wedge, Finding Yourself on the Map and How That Changes Everything. Let's just get it right out. Where do people pick up this book?
You can get it just about anywhere. I always like to support the local bookstores, and just about all the local bookstores around the Des Moines metro area have it. The Machine Shed has it. But, you can go to all the Barnes and Noble
have it too.
And on the web. They're everywhere.
Now, are you out selling Dace's latest book?
Well, I just got it, to tell you the truth, so I haven't read it through, but I'm sure it must be good, too.
It's a very good book.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
All right. Tom, go ahead. You got. What I want to do here, we're going to take a break in about 5 minutes, and then after we come back, I just want to jump through some of the chapters and kind of give people a little tease and a taste of what they can find inside this book by Van Harden.
Well, I want to.
Have you read it?
Oh, sure, I read it. In fact,
see how he treats me? How condescending? Well, sure, I read it.
Well, I'll give
in
you
parentheses. What do you mean? You haven't read it yet?
I'll give you a kudo. You know where I got the first book?
From me.
That's right. I stole your copy.
Yeah,
one
took it
day
off
I
his
was in here
desk.
doing your show.
Yeah.
And I took it home. I read it. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not, even for a slow reader like myself, a hard read, and it is not something that you have to labor over for months.
Yeah.
I have on some of those books, I pick them up and put them down, and it takes me a long time to read some books. This one won't. But it was powerful, and what I did, Van, was as soon as I read it, it occurred to me that we needed to do an event in Norwalk. and we've done 2 of these in essence. One of them involved our keynote speaker this last week at the Iowa Prayer Breakfast, Simon Estes. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you were not able to attend the Iowa Prayer Breakfast and you want to hear Simon's talk, which was very powerful, Mac, you were there. You know how good it was.
It was awesome.
On the WHO website, Jan Michelson posted yesterday's show on his podcast, the entire Simon Estes talk from the Iowa Prayer Breakfast.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so
awesome.
go on there, hit his podcast for yesterday's show, and you can listen to it.
Yeah. Anyway, I got to tell you something. Have you ever heard his testimony? It'll just blow you away.
You know, I feel like I'm really good friends with him now, and he says that about me too. He has filled in for Bonnie a couple of times.
Oh, neat.
And as you know, when you sit in a radio studio with somebody, especially for 4 hours straight, you get to know him pretty well.
Yeah.
And I felt like he was my son when I listened to that thing yesterday. I was so proud of him.
To imagine a life and never know hate.
Yeah.
Especially when you are an African American growing up in the 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
You know,
and the story about his father being operated on wrongly and he died because of that. And his mother said, "Don't you dare blame that doctor."
Yeah. That's incredible.
Yeah, it is incredible. And so we did that. We brought all the area high school kids in from the county, and we did that in the same venue you're going to be in, Van. And a year ago, we did a fellow that we've had on the show, Mac, I think at least 3 times, Bill Weiss, 23 Minutes in Hell. And I got to know Bill pretty well. And we brought him in almost a year ago. It was in April of last year. Mm-hmm. And Bill came in, and we did, I think, about 1,300 folks streamed through there for his 2 events. I expect you to beat that number, Van. And so the same 3 churches. We've got the Crossroads Church with Pastor Glenn Bloomer. We've got the FCC Church with Rob Jones, and we've got the United Methodist Church in Norwalk with my own pastor, Kiboko. The 3 of them have come together and formed this ACTS network, and they are putting on this event, and their church services are going to be at the Norwalk Auditorium this coming Sunday.
1 big service.
2.
What I mean is, all 3 churches will have just 1 service together combined.
Exactly, and anybody that is within the sound of our voice that wants to attend, you're welcome to. There's no admission, and we're going to have a regular church service, but our speaker that day, our preacher, is going to be the imitable Van Harden.
I can't even say that.
I can't either.
All right, and no cost.
No cost.
Free will offering.
Free will offering. And Van will
Child
be there.
care, I'm told, too.
Child care, and Van will be there in case you don't have a copy of his book. He'll have copies there that you can purchase.
Yeah, and book signing and everything like that.
Book signing, I'm sure he'll be gracious enough to do a picture, autographs, the whole 9 yards.
Did you hear that I had a book signing at Borders last week?
Last week?
Yeah, over at University. No. I just told, bring me any book from anybody and I'll be glad to sign it.
Yeah.
I had a lot of book signs.
Yeah, we used to, we'd be out at the state fair and somebody would come in and I'd be sitting at the desk and they said, "Oh, darn, I wanted Jim Zabel's autograph." I said, "Well, give me your book. I'll do it."
Yeah, right. There you go. There you go. All right. Well, when we come back, I want to talk about chapter 1 because the beginning is always the best. Where am I? Mm-hmm. And that's the name of that chapter, and we're going to go through that. Now, is there a place online that someone could go and look at this book and read?
I'll tell you what you could do. You could go to vanharden.com, and I have actually read the first chapter.
Okay.
So you can listen to me reading it if you want to get some kind of idea for whether you want to get involved with it.
Now, do you anticipate doing an audio book at some point?
Yes. It's amazing how many unsighted people that have asked me to do that.
Oh, yeah.
And I sent the book over to the Commission for the Blind. They wanted it. And I'll tell you, I'm just astounded at the different places and people that have wanted this.
Yeah, there's quite a market for
Why are you
Friday
astounded?
Books.
You're a man of God. You're a man of integrity.
Well,
you don't come out with a book of the week.
When I sat down and wrote this, I mean, literally, I've heard of this happening, but 15 chapters just came pouring out of me, and it surprised me. And I just thought, if nobody else but my family ever reads this, I'll be happy.
Still be okay.
But you say, God, use it however you want.
All right, we'll be back with Van Harden, his book, Life in the Purple Wedge, Finding Yourself on the Map, and how that changes everything. next.
All across America, there are countless numbers of people struggling with addiction and other life-controlling issues. Probably someone you know and love. There is a way out. There is hope. Transformations Treatment Center in Delray Beach, Florida, has a unique approach to substance abuse treatment. Call now and ask about our Guaranteed Success program or log on to transformationstreatment.com. Transformations. Change your life. Change your relationships. Transform your world.
Yes, now your favorite programs on Webcast One Live can all be watched and listened to on any Android or Apple device. Your phone, tablet, or iPad. Yes, your favorite shows on Webcast One Live are available live or on podcast wherever you go. Let me introduce to you some of our great shows.
Shalom! Every week on Understanding the World with Rabbi David Kaufman, we'll talk about issues in the Middle East, issues related to the Jewish tradition and religious traditions in general, and keep you up to date on exactly what's going on around the world. You may know some of the story, but you haven't heard all of the story until you've heard it on Understanding the World with Rabbi David Kaufman and our special guests we have on every week.
Hey, this is Doc with Doc and Lefty. I want to tell you about our brand new time slot. It's from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. It's on the same night, Tuesdays. We now follow Ed Fallon and the Fallon Forum on webcast1live.com. I want to tell you a little bit about our show. Our show is focused on local, state, and national, and sometimes international politics. We like to keep people updated and informed. We also have very interesting guests. So please join us every Tuesday from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. on webcast1live.com.
So when you want to watch your favorite Webcast One program, remember, there's an app for that. You know, there's an app for that.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Get away from us, you mean old credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit! You're our hero!
21 minutes after the hour on the 22nd day of April in the Lord's year 2014. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and you know, if I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. I love this job, and I couldn't do it without you. Right here every day, 3 to 4, KTIA, and on the web at webcast1live.com, The View from a Pew. We do Recovery Monday on Monday, and Tuesday Tom comes in. We talk some politics. I've been thinking you need to start joining us on Friday.
Well,
when I got the pastors in.
Well, and maybe I should. Before we get into any of the discussions, we were just watching the animation online here on the TV screen.
Yep.
And the Small World, a few years ago, a salesman that worked formerly at WHO and had for years Mark Carey, we were at the state fair. And at the state fair, I rotate all 40 of my TV spots. It takes about 20 minutes, and they all rotate through there. And we were standing there watching at the booth. And here comes this animation spot. And it was an older animation, and we were never fully happy with it. Paul Menzel, said, well, I don't like it because the mouth doesn't match up with the words and this and that. And Mark Carey said, we could probably redo that. Said, the technology is so good now, he said, we could probably redo that 11 seconds in animation. And as luck would have it, we took it to Blue Compass International.
Interactive, yep.
Interactive, and that is Van's boy.
Drew.
That's his company?
So you can see what Drew drew.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
And so the animation spot that we've run here and still on TV is the updated, the original footage stayed the same, but that 11 seconds donut in the middle, that 11 seconds is what Drew did on the remastered animation.
I got to tell you one quick story about Drew. When he was just a little boy, Denise and I were broke. I mean, we just didn't have much money. It was all we could do to get gasoline to drive to work. And we were discussing, one of the cars broke down. We were discussing, how are we going to get this fixed? And we were in the kitchen, and we had no idea that little Drew, and I mean he was little, was around the corner listening to this conversation. And he could tell that we were both pretty upset and we didn't know what to do. And so a couple minutes later, I hear this jingle, jingle, and here comes this little toddler, practically, Drew, and he had his piggy bank, and he said, "Here, Daddy, you can have my money."
Oh.
I just, whoa.
Yeah.
And he, you know, I thought this kid is going to be a great Christian, and he is. He's a deacon at his church.
Has he made you a grandfather?
Well, I have 5 grandkids.
Wow.
Yeah. My other son is a Des Moines policeman, Luke.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
What ages are they, Van?
let's see, they're 5 through like 8 months.
Okay.
Wow.
So you got
So-
a bunch of them.
Oh yeah, and when they come over, all at the same time, we love them to death. But when they leave, I find myself closing the door and leaning against the door, and my wife and I in unison say, "How did we ever do that?"
Yeah, really. My daughter and her husband, Andre and Steve, have 3 kids, and 16 to 10. And I don't know how. I just don't know how they ever did that. Yeah, we were not as good at parents, I'll tell you that. I wasn't as good at parents as my kids are, I'll tell you that. All right, Van Harden is in the house today, and his brand new book, which you can get at most bookstores. You can go on Van's website, vanharden.com. You can order it from there. And it's called Life in the Purple Wedge, Finding Yourself on the Map and How That Changes Everything. And the purple wedge is that space that Jesus finds you, that you become a Christian until the end of your life. Because before that, it's red, it's Christless, and after that, it's blue, and it's only Christ. And so the purple wedge sits in the middle, and how do you find yourself on a map and how that changes everything? Chapter 1 is called Where Am I? What does that mean?
Well, you know, you look at that red circle, and before I introduced anything else, people are trying to figure out, where am I on here? Am I halfway through? Am I 3/4 through? And nobody even knows that for sure. But they're thinking about it, you know. They're thinking about where they are on the map. And then when you look at it, you think, oh, okay, that's the whole picture, and this is where I am, and that's what I can expect for the rest of my life. But when the blue kingdom of God comes over, then you're still about that same spot on the red map, but it's become purple because you're in God's kingdom. And so the difference, if you back up the scope, all of a sudden that red circle gets teenier and teenier and teenier, and you got this huge kingdom that's so big I could never fit it on a page or in this room or on the side of Iowa or whatever, you know, and it really changes your perspective. I the first week this thing was out, I didn't even know anybody knew about it, but I went down to the front desk to get some mail, and Gail at our front desk said, "Hey, I just thought I'd tell you that my weekend this weekend was absolutely awful. I had terrible things happen." And she said, "But I read your book," and she said, "I couldn't tell you what peace it brought me and how now I think about that totally in perspective." And some people think, you know, there's a lot of pastors that preach the prosperity gospel, and they would say that once you get into the purple wedge, then all those red world problems go away. They don't.
No, they don't.
Sometimes they might even get worse.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But, you know, the thing is, you look at them in an entirely different perspective. I don't know that there's anything in that book that people don't know from out of the Bible. It's just that for some reason, God sent me these puzzle pieces, and I put them together in a way that I looked at it, and even I thought, I've never seen it presented that way before.
Well, God worked through you.
Yeah, maybe that'll help somebody.
Yeah. I gave my testimony to my church and was just very humbled at the number of people that came. And I prayed and prayed and prayed for weeks before, God, your words through me, because I don't know how to do this.
Oh, yeah.
Van is just I don't know half the stuff.
Isn't
I had
that
to go
something?
listen to the testimony
Yeah.
to see what I had said. And all the things I had I had listed that I wanted to talk about, I didn't get to hardly any of them. You know, he just had
He
a
had
different
better
plan.
things for
yeah,
you. to
that's
say.
right. That's right.
I mean, I leave this book alongside my bed, and every once in a while, I just grab it and look at it, and I think, "Oh, that's pretty good."
Yeah.
And I'm not doing that from the point of view of, "Well,
Yeah,
I'm sure a
no.
good writer." This came from somebody besides me.
Yeah. Now, is this self-published?
Yes.
All right. And how did you?
I'll tell you how I did that. When I got done with all of this and I had all these sheets of paper, I thought, well, maybe this ought to be a book. How do you do it? So I got on the internet and I just Googled, and all of a sudden I had this 10-minute presentation that came up that talked about self-publishing. And it was from Xulon, Xulon Press. And I don't know anything about publishers. And then it said, a division of Salem Communications. And I thought, well, I do business with them all the time in the
Yeah.
broadcasting world.
Yeah.
And I even know some people with Salem.
Yeah.
So I thought, that's almost like a sign. Well, go with these guys.
Yeah. That's awesome. And they've been wonderful to work with, and
Oh,
you've
yeah.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, they really have. In fact, they say, "What are you doing out there? Are we seeing your numbers?" And they're impressed.
Well, God's on the move.
Yeah.
And he's on his second printing now. Did you know
Yeah.
that?
Well, and if I understand it, do they print all at once, or do they just print as needed, or when they get so many orders?
You can print as needed, but I got a huge number of them for my own supply, and we went through those pretty quickly. And then people, like when you buy at Barnes and Noble or other places, they've got their own supply, and
Yeah.
so they're seeing numbers. They didn't even know anything about my numbers, and so I had to order another printing just for me, for people here.
Now, do you mind sharing with me you said a huge supply.
Yeah.
How many is that, and what does it cost somebody to self-publish? Because I want to encourage other people out there.
Yeah.
Because this wasn't possible 20 years ago.
No.
And there's a lot of good writers out there
Yeah.
who are wonderful writers who just never get it to that point.
Yeah.
But now you can.
Yeah. I got 1,500 of them delivered to my house, my garage, by this 18-wheel semi-trailer truck in my alley, which has never seen an 18-wheel
18-wheeler.
semi-trailer truck. And we unloaded that, and I had them on pallets. And like I say, they went very quickly. And I'm trying to think how much that cost.
What do you
me.
sell the books for?
It's $11.95.
Okay, that's good. That's all I need to know. So that's great. All
We've
right.
taken hundreds for this event, Mac.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, we've taken the churches of all. I don't know how many hundreds we've taken, but Van himself has dropped them off at my office, box after box, and we've distributed them. So
Yeah,
we've been part of that distribution process.
Yeah.
I'm just curious about self-publishing because you know Ken Fusen. You know Ken?
Yeah.
He's going to ghostwrite my story, my testimony.
Oh, good.
And then I'm going to probably self-publish because I don't know if it's any good, but I really just want it for my friends and family. I don't really expect to sell
that's
any
where I
books.
started.
Yeah, I just want to get enough books that I can send to my friends and family, and as a testimony to say, here's how Jesus mugged me. That's the name of it. Mugged by Jesus.
The thing that one thing that really encouraged me to go ahead and do this was I had this theory of the purple wedge kicking around in my head, and I had a very good friend who was in Iowa Methodist Medical Center dying. He had cancer, and so I went over to visit him, and we talked about all sorts of things, and then he got around to talking about spiritual things. And I thought, well, should I get into this or not? And so I reached over into a wastebasket and found a pencil, and I started drawing the red circle and the purple wedge and the blue thing, and I drew out the spots, and I said, you mean kind of like this? And I explained it to him, and he looked at me, and tears streaming out of his eyes, but yet the biggest smile I have ever seen on his face. He said, that is exactly what I needed today.
Yeah.
2 days later, he died.
Oh, well. Was he a believer?
He was a believer, and then, but here again, even though he was a believer, there was a lot of red world stuff bugging him, and this kind of put it into perspective for him. That's what I needed to see today. So God kind of armed him to take the trip to heaven.
Yeah. Van Harden is my guest today. His book, Life in the Purple Wedge, finding yourself on the map and how that changes everything. You can go to Van Harden, that's VAN, capital HARDEN.com, vanharden.com. You can order the book there. It's at local bookstores, $11.95. And for me, for guys my age, I love the fact that it's like, what, is that about a 16
You know something?
font?
I thought, I've never done a book before. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it just the way I'd like
Yeah.
it. Big print.
Yeah.
Short chapters.
Absolutely.
Get right to the point.
You bet.
And do it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, theological question for you. Do you think we have anything to do when we are filled with the Holy Spirit that first time?
Well, every good gift comes from God. So would you say that's good when you're filled with the Holy Spirit?
Yes.
I would too. So I would think that God made that possible. I mean, it wouldn't happen if it were not for Him.
Right.
You can accept it as a gift, and hopefully you do, and then what you do with it after that is kind of a barometer of just how grateful you really are for what God did to you,
All right,
for you.
but for instance, okay, I got mugged by Jesus in 2011, but you and I have known each other a long time, and I was a God guy. I was not a heathen. I believed in God. I didn't have much use for Jesus because I thought if I have God, what do I need the kid for?
I thought the same thing when I was in college.
Yeah.
The Jesus freaks giving away the Bibles used to bug me.
Yeah.
And I wish I could see him face to face today to tell him, I am sorry.
Yeah. But I've often wondered, did the Hound of Heaven try to bite me before that August 10th of 2011 and I just denied it? Or is God that big that's when he knew I'd hit it on August 10th, 2011 and not a minute before?
Far be it from me to tell you exactly how God works. But clearly back then, he was planting seeds in you that would grow.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of this, you get back to Calvinism and Arminianism and all of that. God can do something in any way he wants to do it.
We're coming back. Van Harden is my guest. Life in the Purple Wedge on 99.3 KTIA, Iowa.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershide.
I am administrative manager
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's gonna be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're gonna do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're gonna be listening. They're gonna wanna know what your challenges are. Then they're gonna come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going, though. I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm going to take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
Twenty-two minutes before the top, Salem Radio Network News at 4 o'clock. And then at 4:03, Pastor Michael Mudloff with True Blue from Westkirk Presbyterian Church. Always look forward to his sermons. And what that show is you get about 20 minutes of one of Mudloff's sermons, and then you get about 10 minutes of commentary. And he and KTIA's Chris Roloff sit and have a commentary about what the sermon was about. So it's kind of like being able to raise your hand in the middle of the sermon, which I thought you could always do, and then Householder told me once I was a bad boy. Mike, can you talk to me like I'm a 6-year-old? I don't understand 2,799 other people going, sit down. But that's what that show's kind of like. And so you can listen to it, and you can call in, and Mudloff's a great preacher. If you haven't watched or listened to last Friday's View from the Pew, Mudloff and his 16-year-old son Micah were on the show because Micah has determined or decided or is heading down the path that he's not going to be a 5-point Calvinist like his dad. And let me tell you something, Micah's sharp. That acorn does not fall far from the tree, and they had a really good debate. Good. It was a good conversation. You got to start coming in on. I know you're Tom McDuck, and you're counting your gold in your little miser castle, but just take a couple hours on a Friday and come in and spend it with me and Jesus. What do you mean? What time? 3 to 4.
3 to 4. Okay.
And you won't be the big deal. Okay, we're actually going to have a pastor sitting over here.
Tom, you didn't have to come here to get beat up like this,
I
did
can
you?
stay home and get verbally abused.
Well, Leanne and I take notes together, so we make sure we're in unison.
You mean I got to give up the club on Friday afternoon?
Oh, that's right. You go to the club.
Yeah, and a lot of the guys from the club I've had in here.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll just do a.
Maybe you could do a remote from the club.
No, because
now,
the radio
I've had Joel to the club different times.
Yeah.
The radio would end up smelling like cigar, and I can't handle cigar. But maybe a couple Tuesdays I'll get some of my favorite pastors. Because have you ever even met Mudloff?
No, I've heard of you.
So you don't know any of these guys.
He's a tremendous guy. I spent a lot of years working with him and teaching over there. And as a matter of fact, before he became the pastor of that church, there was a guy named Wayne Hoffman.
Yes,
and
love him dearly.
Wayne asked me one time, he said, hey, I'm going to be gone next week. Would you do the sermon? I said, you sure you want me to do the sermon? And he said, yeah. So I said, well, okay. So I did the sermon, and at their church, they've got this thing that you walk up to these stairs that you walk like Carl Malden did in some movie. And you get up there, and you go, oh, my gosh. But anyway, I did the sermon, and then I got done, and I thought, okay, what do you do after you're done with the service? And I thought, well, all the pastors walk back to the front door and they shake hands with people on the way out. And this little old guy came up to me and he grabbed me by both of the hands and he said, I can't tell you how meaningful that was to me, and it meant a lot, and I'm going to remember it forever. And in fact, when I go to heaven, I'm going to tell them Van and Bonnie sent me.
Oh, my. Oh, my. That's great. That's great. Now, have you received your orders from St. Peter about what you're going to do in heaven?
No, I haven't gotten that. Did I miss an email?
I got mine. St. Peter's been at the gate for 2,000 years now, so I get to run the gate. And I asked St. Peter if I could stop people from getting in just because they were mean to me, and he said no, but I could form a slow line.
Well, I figure my directions are going to be just the same as they are here. Love God with all your heart and all your mind and all your soul.
Meggs, you met Meggs the other day. Michael Meggison. If you don't know that guy, I want to introduce you to him sometime. He's a magical man. He loves Jesus and very prophetic. And he said to me one day, he said, what do you mean what you're going to do? You're going to have a radio show. And you're going to interview Moses. and you're going to interview Isaiah, and you're going to get Cain and Abel, and that's what really started the whole thing.
All the prophets,
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah. and we were joking about it, and when we got to, this was on the air, and when we got to the break, he says, you know I'm serious. And I said, what? He said, it's going to be just like this, only we're all with God, and there's no Satan. And I thought, what a cool job to sit every day and spend an hour with Isaiah.
Yeah.
You know, my favorite prophet, or to sit with David and see what he was really thinking about. You know, when he faced those, when he faced Goliath and those, I don't know. I'm getting all giddy here, but wouldn't that be neat if that's what we got to do?
Would be.
Yeah, you know, and I write a little bit in the book about heaven, and I talk in there about, well, I've mentioned some of the books that are about by people that say they have been to heaven and come back, and, you know, far be it from me, I don't know how much of that's true and how much of it's not, but the place that I learned the most about heaven was actually the book of Revelation.
Yeah.
And people like Revelation because, you know, they're really into what's going to happen in this world, you know, and all the consternation and all of that. But the book of Revelation, you know, part of it is on this earth, and then the scene skips up to heaven. Mm-hmm. Then it skips back down to this earth. Then it skips back up to heaven. And there was a time when I thought, you know something? I want to know more about heaven. I'm just going to read the parts about heaven. And most people don't do that because they're too interested in what's going to happen on earth. And what are they doing? Constantly, they're face to face with God. They're worshiping, they're praising, they're singing, they're honoring him. And I just get the impression that when we're one-on-one with God, that's all we're really going to think to do. We just, what can I do to honor God? You know, bow down before him or whatever.
Yeah. Have you ever heard the word Makarios? Makarios, and I could look it up and spell it for you if I need to, or I'll send it to you. But Makarios is a Greek word for God's never-ending joy, unconditional love. Okay, and that's what God has for us, as I know you know. And that really changed me in my life a lot. You know, we were talking about living in the purple, and we still get messed up with all the stuff that comes in from the red. You know what I don't do anymore? I don't worry.
Yeah, that's a big, big thing, because worry brings about a host of other problems.
Yeah, and my wife listening? What time is it? No, she's not listening. She gets a little upset with me. Well, aren't you worried about this?
Yeah.
No, I'm not, because I give it to God. Because if I'm worrying, I think there's a piece of this I can take back, and I can control, and God, I don't think you can handle the whole thing, so I'm just going to take this little piece back.
Yeah.
And then I mess it up because it's not his will anymore.
Yeah. And if we have a God that is so powerful that he can do anything he wants, and, you know, and I don't have answers to all these questions about babies dying in car wrecks and all of that, but I got to believe that if something happens, God either allowed it, it went through his fingers, or else he caused it to happen. That could be good or bad things. And I found when I first started teaching the Bible that I was all excited and giddy about a lot of the parts of the Bible that I really liked. And then all of a sudden, I got into some parts of the Bible that, in all honesty, and I told God this right up front, I'm not sure I like that. Or if I was God, I would never do it that way.
Yeah.
So then what do I do? Do I take my magic marker and black out the parts I don't like? Do I tear out the page? And I just thought, you know, Harden, you arrogant.
Yeah.
Isn't that what Jefferson did? Didn't Jefferson do his own editing on the Bible?
Yeah.
The Jefferson Bible.
Yeah.
I just thought, how arrogant can I be that I know better than God does?
Yeah. Well,
do I believe him, and do I believe this word or not? And I've decided that I believe it. And believe me, in a secular world and at a secular radio station, that makes it tough sometimes.
Yeah.
But it, you know, it tests you.
Yeah.
You've got a friendlier environment than you might have, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still, you probably could get in trouble for that. You know, T.S. Eliot had my favorite line. He said, Jesus was either a liar, a lunatic, or the Lord. And he wasn't a little bit of any of those if there wasn't all of them.
Yeah.
And we've all seen those phrases about that, you know, there's no such thing as believing in a little bit of the Bible, or that God can do just so much and the rest we have to do.
And, you know, we can talk all we want about surrendering to God, but even when we do the best we can, there's still part of us in there that wants to run the show and wants it to go the way we want it to go.
Yeah.
So when you bow down on your knees, you got to let go of everything. That's really hard to do.
Yeah. But when you do it, it's life-changing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. How old were you?
Oh, gosh. I was, would have been 1974, and I'm 61 years old, so I'll let you do the math.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you got to live most of your life in the Purple Wedge, though, didn't you?
Yeah.
Lucky you. And I know you have too, Tom.
Well, wasn't until I was about 31.
31? Well, I was 50. You know, my little red dot on the right's coming quickly.
This helped me, though. I mean, I didn't realize I lived in a Purple Wedge. I didn't understand how these things work together.
We're coming back with Van Harden next, live on 99.3 KTIA, Iowa.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places. Especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart, and it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
All across America, there are countless numbers of people struggling with addiction and other life-controlling issues. Probably someone you know and love. There is a way out. There is hope. Transformations Treatment Center in Delray Beach, Florida, has a unique approach to substance abuse treatment. Call now and ask about our Guaranteed Success program or log on to transformationstreatment.com. Transformations. Change your life. Change your relationships. Transform your world.
10 before the top, Salem Radio Network News, and then Michael Mudloff from Westkirk Presbyterian Church. And True Blue, that comes up. We go through one of his sermons. He preaches it. And then him and Chris Roloff from KTIA sit down and go through it. And it's very interesting. If you haven't caught that program, I hope you take an opportunity to listen to it. I think you'll learn a lot. All right. By the way, coming up Friday, great show. One, you could come in if you have time there, McDuck. But we don't smoke cigars in here, okay? I don't have that air filtration. But a guy who is, it's so funny. Sometimes the greatest biblical minds are the quietest on the outside. And we have a pastor at our church named Ben Mason. And he's just the sweetest little doughboy. You just want to go on and hug him. You sit down and start talking about the Bible, that man knows his Bible. Like, I don't know anybody else. So he's coming in on Friday. We'll go through the pastor's questions, and that'll be Friday here on The View from a Pew. And those shows are always available. If you're on Facebook, friend me, because I always post those shows, or just go to my personal website, which is Mac McCoy, MacMcKoy.com, and all the shows are listed there, and you can listen to any of them at any time. Our guest today is Van Harden, who we've all enjoyed listening to for so many years on 1040 WHO and 1350 KRNT before that, and started out in Perry,
Iowa.
So you've just never left this little hub, have you?
I had 1 year where I was on the air in Tulsa.
Oh.
And I really thought Tulsa was a neat city, but there's something about Iowa that just is like a magnet to me.
Yeah, it draws you back.
Yeah.
It is home. His book is Life in the Purple Wedge, Finding Yourself on the Map and How That Changes Everything. And I would really encourage you to get this book and get a copy. I think, here's what I think. You want to know what I think? I think you're going to buy this book and you're going to give it to people for their birthdays. Or one Christmas, you're going to wrap this up, and these are going to be the presents that you give to all your grandkids and the ladies in your church group, and maybe the lady across the street that isn't so church ladyish. And because this book, this is a common sense text of how life is from the moment we're born until the moment we die.
I wanted to try to do two things with it. Number one, I wanted to make it evergreen. In other words, you know, if the planet's still here in 200 years and somebody goes to the brass armadillo, if that's still there, and finds one of those in there, this will be just as true then as it is now, because it's scriptural, it's biblical. And the other thing was, you know, everybody writes books these days, and I wanted to write a book for everybody. And this thing, every human being that touches that book will find themselves on that map somewhere.
Yeah.
It could be the President of the United States. It could be a guy under the Grand Avenue Bridge out here that's homeless. It could be a CEO that's rich. It could be anybody, and it applies to them. And that's why I'm kind of excited about people coming to Norwalk on Sunday, because it doesn't matter who's sitting in those seats. This is for them.
Somewhere. Yeah. Tell us about the event you put on, Tom.
Again, the event that we're talking about is, you know, after I took Mac's copy of Van's book, read it, I went to the three pastors, again, Rob Jones, Glenn Bloomer, and Kiboko, the Methodists, the FCC, and the Crossroads Church, and I laid it out for them, and they quickly embraced it. I gave them copies. They read it, shared it around, and we're expecting some big things come this Sunday at the Norwalk High School Auditorium. We've got an 8:30 and a 10:30 service. You don't have to be a member of those churches, although those three churches are going to convene at the auditorium for their normal church services this Sunday.
And you'll have books there for folks to buy, and you'll sign. And I don't say that. I know this is humorous, but I say this seriously. There are charts and graphs, and it is in big print.
Yeah.
Which I got to tell you, that is so nice. I mean, probably you
we
too.
liked
I don't
it
know.
when we were in
you
elementary
got perfect
school.
eyesight, don't you? Because you don't.
I'm a little nearsighted.
Well, you don't wear contacts or glasses.
Well,
do you have reading glasses?
I don't have reading glasses. I can see even better than normal up front. But it's when I'm driving or going to a movie, then I'll have glasses and I'll wear them then.
All right. So, best thing you've heard about this book? Best thing. Who said what? And I don't care if it's their name, but just somebody.
I
who
wish
said
I had my website here, because when we get notes about it, we put them up there so you can actually read everything. I think the story I told you about the guy, my friend that was dying, I mean, boy, that just got me. And I walked out of that room different than I walked in.
Yeah.
About how he said, this is exactly what I needed to see. I think he knew all of this. He knew all the parts, but he'd just never been able to kind of put them together and really kind of understand where he was on that map. And, you know, the one of the very last illustrations in there is a big blue kingdom right there and a little teeny red world. And that's what's significant when you get through with this. You realize you can still put the dot where you are on the purple wedge or in the red circle, but you look at how infinite everything is beyond that, whereas, and I imagine we'll probably have some people that haven't accepted Christ at this thing on Sunday, and they think they're just in that red circle and it's over. And so I hope that this picture will make them think as well about how vast. I mean, God made us not for 80 years.
Yeah. I remember a householder once when we were down at Wells Fargo for Easter. They had a string all the way around the inside of Wells Fargo and then outside, and it went to that motel and came back. And right where householder stood, he put a little black dot. And he said, that's you, and the rest is life.
Yeah.
for eternity.
The only problem with that was the string wasn't long enough.
Right. Correct. I got you there.
But a beautiful illustration, though.
Yeah. Life in the Purple Wedge, finding yourself on the map and how that changes everything. So how has this changed you?
Well, I have always loved broadcasting, as have you. And I've always loved God, as I believe you have too. But it's tipped the scales a little more. I mean, this is people, I mean, we've been given awards and we've been given accolades, and people think it's a big deal. I'm out in the street, hey man, how you doing? You're the guy on the radio and all of that. And you know something? The time I spent in my adult Sunday school class, I wouldn't trade that for 13 Marconi awards.
Yeah, right.
I really wouldn't.
Yeah.
Just because, we're supposed to invest in things that are eternal and will not rust and that moths won't destroy. And that's what this is. I mean, God bless everybody we advertise for their foundations, for their homes and their dental work and all of that. That's important. But that's a little different than this.
Yeah, this is truly kingdom work. This is like Paul's writings, because we all need a modern day Paul. We all need somebody who understands what life was like, what happened, and what my life is like now. And that's what you've done here.
After I've been to all of these churches, I feel like when I read Paul saying, I greet you, Galatians, I greet you, Philippians, I greet you, I go back to all these churches and I know exactly what he felt.
Yeah. Van Harden's been our guest. Get the book, Life in the Purple Wedge. We will see you tomorrow. And until I see you again, just do one thing for me tonight, would you? When the lights are out, your eyes are closed, and your head's on the pillow, just pray.